July 1st.
I know it, you don't, it's a terrible decision. I remember way, way, way back, Harold was still alive, so it was a terrible
Yeah.
decision. So.
But I already left her 25%. I think she was wanting to bring
It's counting my steps.
And not
Did my
break.
workout okay?
You know, Harold had his,
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay.
Alrighty, thanks everyone for coming today. Okay, we got a motion to move the consent agenda. Is there a second?
so moved.
Okay, any discussion on these items? Looks like we just had application to renew tobacco permit and then employment. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye, motion carried. This is the live going. Sorry, I meant to ask you
Yes,
that.
it is.
Okay, first on the agenda, we have Matt Wyant, Director of Planning and Development, and Pam's here, Acting Director of Planning and Development. We are gonna have a public hearing on the proposed Pottawattamie County Industrial Park Urban Renewal Plan. I need a motion to open public hearing.
So moved. Second.
Okay, any discussion? Roll call.
Chairman Schultz,
Aye.
Supervisors Groby,
Yes.
Wickman,
Aye.
Bell,
Aye.
and Drake.
Okay, so we're in public hearing. We have a document that was sent over. We have some things we're waiting on the city to get handled. So what we're going to do is leave this public hearing open until we get those documents, which should be by the 21st. So I guess if anyone has anything you want to comment on right now, you're certainly welcome to do so. Otherwise, we'll move on to the next item.
So we're supposed to leave the public hearing open until.
Just continue it. Yeah, we'll continue the public hearing until July 21st.
At 10 o'clock.
Correct.
So
what time?
I'll make a motion to
10.
continue the public hearing to July 21st at 10 o'clock.
Okay, the motion second. Do we need roll call on this or just?
Did we get a second from Tim?
Yeah. I don't think we need a roll call on this one though, so, since we're leaving it open. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motion carried. All right, thanks everyone for understanding on that one. It's just a paperwork issue that we're working out, so, okay. Pass this resolution. Okay, so. Ducks in a row here. We have another public hearing at 10:05. So next on the agenda is a public hearing. This will be the first consideration for ordinance number 2020-01. An ordinance to amend Chapter 8 of the Pottawattamie County, Iowa zoning ordinance by adding a provision that commercial kennels and veterinarian hospitals or clinics are a conditional use in the A3 district. Got a motion on that. Is there a second? Did someone second that? Oh, sorry.
Carolyn did.
Okay, roll call please.
What?
Chairman Schultz,
Aye.
Supervisors Groby,
Yes.
Wickman,
Aye.
Bell,
Aye.
and Drake.
Aye.
Okay.
Excuse me. So the A3 districts would be all of.
Riverfront, river bottom ground, that's primarily where our A3 ground lies at.
Okay.
Everything from the Les Hills to the Missouri River area.
Okay. And then it would be determined on the size of the operation, how big a piece of property it would need to be then, right?
Correct, it would still go through our conditional zone, or conditional use permitting process, to where it goes before the zoning board of adjustment, and conditions can be placed upon the size type of operation that they're potentially looking at doing. We do have, this was a request that came from a property owner in Pottawattamie County. They made application through our office to have this done. It went through planning commission and they have their recommended approval to the board of supervisors. But we have residents in Pottawattamie County that will go through the conditional use process for a commercial kennel because they have more than 4 dogs. And so in order to be able to license all those animals, they have to become a commercial kennel at that point in time.
So these necessarily won't be on the official bituminous roads then?
Correct. I don't believe we have any down in that area.
Okay. So how much, depending on what they're all doing, how much traffic will these drive, you know, business-wise?
If it winds up, say it's, somebody comes in and applies for like a commercial kennel to where somebody's gonna do boarding or something like that. You could, depending on the size of the operation, and that's all part of the things that gets looked at as described. I mean, it could be somebody who just has 1 or 2 spots open for boarding, so maybe they're generating, 2 to 4 trips a week on a road. Or it could be somebody who has a larger scale operation, and that's the things that go when they lay out their business plan to the zoning board of adjustment, and then they go down through that criteria and they could actually say, well, you have 6 spots for kennels, so that's what we're gonna limit you to is those 6 spots, and then if they ever decide to expand from that, they have to go back to the zoning board of adjustment to change their conditional use permit.
Okay.
Okay,
Motion to close public hearing.
got a motion to close public hearing, is there a second?
Second.
Motion second, roll call.
Chairman Schultz,
Aye.
Supervisors Groby,
Aye.
Wickman,
Aye.
Belt, and Drake.
Aye.
Okay. Next, we have based on that conversation, there's
Motion, excuse me, motion to approve the first consideration of ordinance 2020-1. Second consideration will be at July 21st, 2020 at 15 a.m.
10:15, is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Motion second, any discussion? Roll call.
Chairman Schultz,
Aye.
Supervisors Groby,
Yes.
Wickman,
Aye.
Drake,
Aye.
and Belt.
Aye.
Okay, gotta wait 2 more minutes here and get to our next one. That's how you get times.
Big Gillets are here.
Oh, okay.
Mike.
Michael? Okay. we can get moving here. Got a motion to open public hearing on proposed preliminary plat of the Gillette subdivision situated in Garner Township, and signed planning and zoning resolution number 2020-08. So we got a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion.
Okay, we got a motion second, roll call.
Chairman Schultz,
Aye.
Supervisors Drake,
Aye.
Belt, Wickman,
Aye.
Groby,
Okay. The public hearing, is there anything anyone wants to say on this? I'm assuming you guys are for it, since you're here.
Motion to close public hearing.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Okay, roll call.
Chairman Schultz,
Aye.
Supervisors Wickman,
Aye.
Groby, Belt, Drake.
Aye.
Okay.
Motion to approve and authorize the board to sign the planning and zoning board resolution 2020-8. Said resolution said as follows.
The motion is second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Chairman Schultz,
Aye.
Supervisors Wickman,
Aye.
Belt,
Aye.
Drake,
Aye.
and Groby.
Aye.
All right. Motion carried. Thank you.
Who's the lady there?
I'll make the motion, Chairman Schultz, to
Oh,
approve the
that's-
final plat of Catherine Road subdivision and outright the board to sign resolution 2020-09.
Okay, so we got a,
Four rings for beer, wines and stuff.
Mr. Auditor, we have a motion by Mr. Wickman to approve the final plat of the Catherine Rose subdivision situated in Lewis Township, the signed planning and zoning resolution 2020-09. Is there a second?
Second?
Okay, we've got a motion, and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Chairman Schultz.
Aye.
Supervisors Wickman.
Aye.
Belt.
Aye.
Drake.
Aye.
And Groby.
Aye. Okay. Next, we have a discussion and/or decision on a funding request in the amount of $15,000 for the Pottawattamie County Housing Trust Fund. Matt, you want to talk about this at all, or?
Yes, this is still, we made the transition a year ago, and Council Bluffs Housing Trust Fund formed the Pottawattamie County Housing Trust Fund that now covers all of Pottawattamie County. And I do have a statement here from Gloria Roosh that she asked me to read. It says, "The Pottawattamie County Housing Trust Fund appreciates your support for our mission of expanding affordable housing opportunities for households in Pottawattamie County. Since expanding to cover all of Pottawattamie County, Iowa Finance Authority money has increased by almost $41,000 annually, and our granting capability has increased by over $50,000 annually. This allows us to further the mission of several of our recipients to households outside the city limits that we've not been able to help because of our previous limitations. We were able to grant money to a senior project in Carson, which will replace 30-year-old windows with more energy efficient windows, decreasing energy costs and increasing their comfort. Our hope is that with more exposure in the rest of the county, we will have more applications in those towns which we couldn't serve before. As you probably remember, in order to get the full Iowa Finance Authority funds, we must have secured a 25% local match by October 1st application deadline. This year, Pottawattamie County Housing Trust Fund signed a contract with Fox Creek Fundraising to find other sources of funding for this match. However, because of the current health crisis, most sources are committed to COVID funding, which has resulted in us being short for our match goal by $15,000. If funding is not approved by the board, our grant money for the state would be reduced by $60,000. We have received donations from several local banks, Iowa West Foundation, Telpner Peterson Law Firm, NP Dodge Company and its agents, as well as several individuals. Affordable housing is an issue that greatly affects our workforce, our economy, and the health of our communities. We are grateful for the support of the county, and we would appreciate your consideration for this request to meet our 2021 match requirements. Respectfully, Gloria Roosh, President. And
I so move.
A motion? Second, discussion.
Thank you, Marilyn and Tim. Matt, how much, was it 15 last year then? Do you know? Or was it-
last year, what ended up happening was there was two different funding requests made. There was I think it was 6,000 and 9,000. I think it was 15, correct?
Okay, did that, Becky, do you know, did that come out of gaming or where did
I
we?
was kicking myself that I did not bring that with me. Typically,
Is
you
that
guys
where
have been
we're-
doing gaming though, yes.
Is that where you guys are?
I think so, yeah.
You okay with that,
I
Marilyn?
believe it was gaming.
Marilyn, you okay with gaming?
I
Your
motion.
motion? No, I'm asking if it's okay if we use gaming as part of your motion.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion on this? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carried. Thanks, Matt. Next, we have Chris Wood, Program Coordinator for WIC. Discussion and decision to approve the WIC Employee Retirement Payoff Agreement between Pottawattamie County and Pottawattamie County WIC Program.
Y'all have the proposal,
Yeah, I'm
should be
sure.
dated 7/1/20. So this discussion started a couple years ago when we had an employee retire. And when we, the federal regulations for federal dollars as far as that separation had changed a little bit in the last several years. So to follow generally accepted accounting principles, follow the federal regulations, and to make sure that the county gets reimbursed in full for any separation payout to a WIC employee. We consulted with, Becky helped, consulted with Donna Kruger at the state auditor's office, as well as bringing in we consulted with a CPA from Hamilton, and came up with this plan. So have you had a chance to read through it, or?
We got it in our board packet.
Okay.
So does this go into our employee handbook or
This,
I'm
I don't
asking,
think so.
what?
No, I don't think it would go
So
in, it would just be in a guidance, I guess.
Okay, did you?
Yeah, an
Leanne,
agreement.
Have you seen this?
Just a bit ago, yes.
Okay.
If I can just jump
Becky,
in.
yeah, jump in.
On
Well,
our,
I'd like to, no, go ahead, Becky, but just real quick, I really, the timing of this, if I could have had it, whatever, a month ago, we could have at least talk to the cost recovery guy a little bit about
Sure.
how
I will
this.
chime in on that.
Okay.
He actually was key to this actually being.
Stand up, Becky, so we can hear you a little better.
So,
But don't walk.
I'm sorry. So, as Chris said, we've been trying to figure this out for a couple of years between audits on their side, the state auditors on our side. And each route we would take, it just was not working. It wasn't working with holding funds out, it wasn't working, and it just has to do with their guidelines with the federal grants. And it's not even going to occur very often, if it does, but we were trying to figure out how to make it work. Jeff Lorenz from Cost Advisory ended up being the key to making it work on their end. They brought this to me, had this aha moment of, wow, why didn't we think of that sooner? And took it to the state auditors. This all happened in the last few weeks. They approved it. And essentially on our end, to, I guess, my dumb it down for me was, nothing will change on the county side. But what we normally do, WIC makes their expenses, they draw down from the state, we get our revenues back, and it's an agency fund for us. Any excess to what they're allowed in that normal drawdown process was the part that we were stuck on. So as an indirect expense, admin expense, Cost Advisory can capture that, and we'll see it when they pay us back on those indirect admin expenses. That passed everything they needed for compliance on their end. It's just how are we getting it back into our funds? It'll just be separate. So it was a win-win. Timing would be the only thing that's different, but nothing on our end changes. Does that make sense, girls?
Yes.
I think it stayed that way.
Yep, nope, that's good.
So where it's a pass-through pretty much, and we're made whole,
Correct.
except for the carrying costs that we always have to carry because the feds are always slow paying.
Correct.
Okay.
And the reason why we thought it was important to go ahead and get this now, even though it may be, Chris said, a
10
few
years.
years before it's due,
I was
or
gonna say, I'm
or it's calculated, was, so future us's wouldn't have that struggle with how would this work to make sure they were able to get their drawdowns correctly and not have an excess that they couldn't draw and cover us.
Okay, well, it's just where is this
It's how
document?
they get the money back to us.
Where is this document gonna?
Live.
Yeah, house live.
Just as a policy or as a directive, the state auditors said, because initially we were trying to figure out how they would literally pull funds out without pulling funds out, and that's not possible.
You'll just have to be here for the next 10 years, Scott, so
Yeah.
you'll remember.
Yeah, on an agenda or a directive as if this happens, and mostly WIC will know. It's them,
Right.
it was how they were able to capture their funds
Is
to
there
get
a
us
WIC
reimbursed.
file in HR? Do you have a WIC file?
No, but I think that'd be a good place for it.
Yeah,
Okay.
then we'll
To
keep
create
one in the
Well,
finance.
there and then in payroll?
Yeah.
Yeah, payroll definitely has
Yeah.
always had a WIC file, always,
Okay.
from the beginning.
And again, I think the work part of it is on their end. It won't look any different to us. They'll submit their affidavits and their payroll like they normally do. It's how they were able to get that, capture that revenue back to us
I just
that
gotta
changes for them, so.
remember a year from now or whenever when Jeff Lorenz comes back that
He explains that.
he can talk to that a little bit. I'll make a motion to approve the WIC employee retirement payout agreement between Pot County and Pot County WIC program, 7/1/2020.
Okay, got a motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, got a second. Any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Next, we have Lauren Campbell, Office Administrator from the Assessor's Office, to approve the Assessor's recommendation on the following applications. Homestead, 306, Homestead, hold on, I'll just let you say all this.
Okay, I didn't bring the numbers of how many are recommended allowed.
No, I got you. It's all
But
good, I'll read it. So we have 306 recommended allowed, 2 recommended disallowed. Military, there were 29 recommended allowed, there was 0 recommended disallowed. Disabled veteran homestead, there were 11 recommended allowed, 1 recommended disallowed. Business property tax credit, 25 recommended allowed and 0 recommended disallowed. Is that what you're thinking it was too?
Yep.
Motion to approve.
The motions are second.
Second,
All right, any discussion?
Yeah, Lauren, why were those two homestead disallowed?
So I have one homestead where for it to be allowed, they have to be related or they both have to be living there, anybody that's on the title. And these 2 people are not related and they're not both living there. So that's disallowed. And then the other is titled under a LLC, which also does not qualify for homestead. The disabled veteran, they are required to supply a benefits letter stating what their percentage of disability is or if they're unemployable, and that it's permanently and totally disabled. This application didn't have that letter attached. We tried calling and emailing the applicant and never heard anything back. So we don't have the letter showing that they're allowed.
Okay, they could like reapply later if they.
They could, yeah. And then the business property tax credit it was a contract that was a no transfer because of the incorrect legal description. And it was not re-recorded, so it's still under the previous owner's ownership.
Thank you. Motion second.
Yep.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carried.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lauren.
thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, next one. We have item D here, Jan Limerick, Director of Human Resources. Discussion decision to approve the amendments for the county policy number 802, cameras in the workplace. So got a motion to approve, is there a second?
Second,
A second, discussion, Jana, you want to talk about this a little bit?
Yep, the policy committee reviewed this actually back in October. Really, the only change that we made to it is number 2. Previously, number 2 said authorization will be granted when a specific business purpose, so on and so forth, but it didn't say who was going to grant that. So we just put in department head. And we talked about this one actually in a little bit of length because cell phones are cameras and everyone has their cell phone with them. And so to say that you can't have a camera, well, everyone has their cell phone. But there definitely are business needs where someone might need to take a photo and send it in. And so we just need to make sure that we know who gives that authorization. That was the only change to that policy.
Any other discussion? All in favor, favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, next we have county policy, Jan again. County policy number 504, this is regarding smoking policy.
And for this policy, we wanted to make sure that we added smoking and tobacco use, so that it's not just smoking. So in that first paragraph, you see there where it references smoking, we added /tobacco/nicotine, because there's so many different devices that involve all of that now. And then those next two paragraphs that you see there helps talk about vaping. It pulls in those vaping devices.
Okay.
And then the only other change under number 5 is we added the correct website for the Smoke-Free Air Iowa. But the biggest change in here was to get vaping included in there. That was it.
I so move.
I got a motion, a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Until the next thing comes along,
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
whatever that
Yep.
might be.
What about Nick right now?
Yeah, we didn't address that at all.
I think we leave it alone just so we can let people play smoke. Okay. Moving on, we got the next county policy. Sorry, I have a mint in my mouth. This mask is reminding me that I need to chew gum more. County policy number 305, mobile device policy.
So moved.
A motion, do you second?
Second.
Jana, you got any updates on this one?
The only updates to this one, I know the group prior to me getting here put a lot of time into this document. So the only changes is we changed the word stipends to reimbursement. That was recommended by Becky and the state auditor. And so everywhere it says stipend, we just changed it to reimbursement. It does make a difference,
Okay.
that wording. That was the only change.
All right, got a motion second. I guess any other discussion on this? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Are they gonna, they're not gonna stop. So we're gonna keep pushing forward. We got, next on here, we have our Sheriff Jeff Danker and Rob's here too. Chief Deputy Rob Ambrose. Discussion on remodeling of the Sheriff's Office and Administrative Building. I'll just take this one. I had some conversations with Sheriff Danker, and he'd asked about, kind of the status of our thoughts as a board as to whether or not we want to continue to pursue with remodeling, and I didn't want to necessarily just answer for all of you, so I just figured we'd get in here, have a little more discussion about it. And that way Sheriff Danker can have an answer on that. I guess, Sheriff, do you have anything you want to talk about first before we?
Well, kind of the status of where it's at. We've met with DLR. They've gone through their process. They have completed their construction documents. So the next step would be to go out for bids on the addition on the sheriff's office. But their question was, things again have changed a lot here since we first started looking at this project. If there is funds that are available, because we originally looked at, I've got money in my forfeiture account that I was going to put towards that. We have expended some of that money towards the fees for DLR. But we were going to use that money, and then the board had agreed to look at funding the balance of that. But they said if things have changed, they didn't really want to send that out for bid and have all these contractors bid it, spend a lot of time and effort bidding this if it's not going to go through right now. So they asked if we would, just check with the board and see kind of what the status is, and if you want us to go ahead and move ahead with the getting bids from contractors, or whether we put it on the shelf for a while until things kind of level out here. So that was the main reason. That's why I had called Justin. He thought we should discuss it and kind of see where things were at before we move forward.
What was their engineer's estimate after they finished up with their?
I mean, their They just, that original estimate that we
Plan's all
had,
done, right?
what's that?
The plan's all done, ready to
Yeah.
go out for bid?
Yeah.
Did they put a number on those plans then?
They have not changed anything. I mean, they have not, anyway, I think they're having a hard time actually, getting they had given us an estimate initially. They said right now there is in their opinion, is a good bidding environment right now. But, they don't know where it's going to be. I mean, things are kind of, have changed quite a bit here in the last few months. So it's just something that I wanted to check with the board and just see if that's something that you still wanted to go forward with, or if we just put it on hold. So, just want to see what the board's thoughts were.
But I think the original estimate, wasn't it about 4 million?
I think it was right around there, Tim, just under that.
So, and I think, well, I don't think, I know Jeff has 1.7 million in his drug forfeiture account.
Pardon? I'm sorry, Tim. Loud.
I said, you have $1.7 million in your forfeiture account.
That's correct.
So if the estimate for the project is correct, the board would need to come up with 2.3 million. And I wouldn't say, at least this board member's opinion, that it's not off the table. I think it still has an opportunity to still happen. However, the board needs to find the money for that. And I think doing that, we need to move forward with our urban renewal plan in the Platte area, so we can use some of those funds that we have in cash reserve to do things like that, and use the bonding ability to pay for the renovation of the courthouse and the new addition, if that's still the direction the board wants to go. So I think that it's, in my opinion, we still have an opportunity to move forward with it. I wouldn't be ready to go out for a bid yet until the board finds the money. And I think we can probably get that done in maybe in the next 2 or 3 months, do you think?
I think so. I think we're gonna have a better answer on the urban renewal here in the coming month. I've talked to some folks over at the city. Part of that urban renewal process is getting their approval, because our urban renewal will happen within their city limits, obviously, so we have to get, it's just a administrative thing. But once that happens, and if and when that's approved, that will free up monies that we currently have allocated for other things with this B-wing over here. And then that would be a perfectly good opportunity for us to revisit this. So I would say, this is just my recommendation, everyone else feel free to say what you want to say. I think we hold off on this conversation until I get that meeting arranged, and then we get through that meeting, which, like I said, it should be, originally my plan was to do that meeting this week even, so I'm guessing it's going to happen within the next 2 or so. I just got to get, I'm working with like 8 people's schedules right now to nail down an hour time so we can have the discussion, as well as our attorney. But I agree, I'm with you. It needs, I think it's a definitely worthwhile project. I just want to make sure we have the funds ready to rock.
Yeah, and I really don't want to cause a lot of work that isn't gonna happen either. But, typically sometime probably this fall or within the next 120 days, these contractors are gonna be looking for work so there's a window there to put those out for bid. And I hate to say it, but we put it out and it comes in really good. Let's say it comes in really good.
Yeah.
Then we gotta do something. If it comes in really bad, I don't know what really bad is, but if it comes in disfavorable,
Right.
then we're gonna probably maybe reject them and have to retool and then look at bidding them again down the road and such, or figure that piece out. I didn't realize it was 4 4, huh? It was 4. I thought, for some reason I thought it was 3 something, but
I think it was just under 4, I think, Scott. is
Okay.
what it was.
that was that guy's
A million
original,
plus,
Pardon me, Marilyn?
ours will be a million plus,
Ours would be about
2.5.
2.5 probably.
about 2.5,
And
okay,
then Sheriff Danker would use, ideally, we'd use forfeiture funds, hopefully to
all right.
supplement that.
but that doesn't have, and just so that we're, and that's probably where we need to maybe talk to that guy. Does that have any IT stuff in it or any stuff like that in this project that can be, I guess, pulled out and those items are able to be,
Oh, it's like when we run, yeah,
and
so like the other upgrades, so fiber, you know,
any of
other,
that, if that's part of this project, we can use in a bonding situation, so.
so like
if
the
there's-
air handler, for example, that's something that maybe we can pull that out as a separate project for that building and when
If
we,
there's a possibility, I guess maybe we need to just have him come in and talk through a little bit of that, and see if there's some pieces there that we can get, $500,000 there, of that helps in that sense, if it's something that's gonna be there for a long time, so.
I'm sure he would be glad to come in and discuss that. If there's, if there's certain ways of, having funding
Right,
another way, that'd be fine.
talk through that a little bit, okay.
I would like to do that too, I like that idea.
right? I mean, I'm sure you've all been down to the sheriff's office and it's, we have, our CSI folks are working out of something that's about the size of our storage closet back there, and it's just not, I mean, realistically, you think about the workflow and how much more can be done. Even our UNO study talked about how there's some need there, so I definitely think this is a worthwhile project. I just think for money's sake, I want to get through this urban renewal conversation, which I'm going to try to get here. Honestly, I'm hoping we can knock this out the last week of July. It just depends on a couple of people's schedule, but once I get that conversation going, I'll be able to give you a pretty solid answer.
Okay, we'll just let them know that, right now, wait until you, get some answers there, and then we can take a look at it.
Okay?
Yeah, we definitely want you to move ahead. Definitely.
That'd be great to.
Yeah, it's time.
Okay, we're gonna leave that. I'm gonna take a quick 5-minute recess. I'm gonna try to talk, so I can get these jackhammer guys to stop for the next half hour or so. Maybe there's some other work they can focus on, and then that way we can keep going. So everyone just take a quick 5-minute break, and then we'll be right back.
Okay.
Quick, gotta be quick.
So much. Good.
Yeah, I give them one. They start to see down.
Which one, which side? Oh. I guess. Yes. I don't think there's much to it, it's kind of an outlier, to be honest with you.
Just want to hold that one then, just put it on hold, table it, yeah, okay.
So, we have to decide between us, having discussions over it, and then look at what other jurisdictions are doing, and try to incorporate these things. Just because, we decide to do something on Facebook, doesn't mean we're not be able to adopt this thing the next day. Just looking at the one state code section.
No, they just sounded talking about said that we can
Muffler
Talking
inspections.
to you yesterday.
the city did, force the curfew on.
You don't have anything else to do, do you?
I know, right?
Speaking of nothing else to do,
I just think there's
watch that
a lot of
I'd be
other
for COVID thing.
things that I know.
Take a seat.
No, it was a webinar last week. I think Janice in it and asked if you and I wanted to look at it. I didn't have the recording, I'll forward it to you if you want.
Okay, yeah.
It was just very, Janet, did you watch that too?
I didn't watch it.
So I thought it was like.
Yeah.
So just to let you know, I was impressed though. That
Good.
NeoGov,
They're taking submissions. So NeoGov has some sort of webinar thing.
about the CARES Act and helping to give some guidance as to how counties can use it. I don't, and because Liz gets those, and so she sent it to me, and I was like, well, I'm gonna send it to Becky and Matt, because I don't think they know what that, but it could be really helpful. And Becky did find it
It's
helpful.
really interesting to me. They had, and it was so professionally done, they had like 4 people tag teaming, and the camera was spot on when it was, you know, who was talking, but.
He's a little touched. Who was I talking to? Shooting on our trail.
And then
Oh,
it
I was
started
talking
moving.
to.
Because I'm
Yeah.
like, oh.
Because it made you think.
So we probably did get some, so our government passed it. But if you weren't an entity by yourself of 500,000 or more in population, then your state got your money. But it could probably be your money too, but you don't get it unless you request it.
You have to specifically go out there and ask
And
for
they're,
it,
what
right?
they were proposing, and they were asking, well, and the gal who works with legislators, she was giving tips on, make sure you state your purpose, and what your purpose needs to be is, that it's, you know, it was just really interesting that it's like, I can't believe they yoke up of all people, and then of course, they'll offer, but then I thought, ISAC, I mean, should be already doing this.
I hope so.
But I don't know, so I was like, I was gonna ask, okay, who's doing this?
Yeah.
Because they,
That's okay.
if you don't pass, the state's going to use it, of course, but you have money available to you, contact them and
The
say,
boundary's really weird up there.
the
It's
federal
got the
government
south
gave you
of the
this,
interstate.
and
It
it's
doesn't go
yours.
down the south.
And you have to ask them,
Yeah.
so you can get
So
your
we're
share, but
right
you have to
on
tell them how much you need and why you need it and what you need it for, but they were just saying, most people don't know, it's there, it got sent to your state, yeah. I wrote down a figure, it was over $1 billion,
No,
that sent to our state, but they said technically in the background, that's your
Just when you
property.
try to go
Yeah, we're going pretty fast.
and then do
Yeah.
no
like content.
It can just say your budget to.
I understand we need to kayak paddle behind your route there somewhere.
Yes.
In fact, I put it in.
So it isn't just you have to have, and you don't have to dollar for dollar, you don't have to like spend it and ask for it.
The railroad,
You just
kind of
say,
like a little triangle section, so I put in
money
there
for our
that.
budget to,
And we plugged it all the way down to the
safety
new
protocols,
bicycle trail.
and you just request,
It was
and
probably about
she just
3 or
suggested, she
4
goes, you don't say, I think that's
It's super nice. I've always went.
don't ask for something that they're good.
Yellow, which
You're
West
nice
Spencer's
questions,
are
I don't know why you
down to the
need
grocery
that.
store. and
She said,
you
they
don't
are
even know
really good keys
Right.
for your
The
son.
creek is really wide, the sand bottom is even rock.
They were sitting there for you, and if you don't ask for it,
How do you request it?
well, that was what the webinar,
Yeah.
she said, your governor's office, but she's, I believe they sent, unless you guys didn't register, I'll forward it to you that, but they sent the slides and the report.
Oh, nice, okay.
I was just impressed with it. Great that they're, but,
Yeah.
but they weren't listening to say, they really weren't, I was surprised.
I'm glad you found it helpful.
I don't want to.
Somebody said they would be there.
As much as we've been together, we got.
Yes.
All right, so we're gonna pick back up. Sorry about that, that jackhammering was just driving me nuts. Okay, so next on here, we got Sheriff Danker, Chief Deputy Rob Ambrose, Matt Wyant, and John Rasmussen. And discussion decision to pass ordinance on regulating the operations of an all-terrain and off-road vehicles in Pottawattamie County. So I mean, the intent of this one really is just to start our initial discussions. We have some documents that have been drafted up. I believe Fire Chief Justin James kind of took the lead on that, got that over to Scott Bell. Scott Bell brought that to our attention, and so we just want to start having some conversations before we start rolling these new ordinance out. That way we make sure we capture at least as much of it as we can. You know, because obviously once we make this ordinance, there's bound to be some things that come up that we need to address, but I want to try to minimize those as best we can. And ultimately, you know, Sheriff Danker, your folks are going to be the ones, you know, dealing with it a lot. I'm sure Matt, your folks will as well. And then John, you know, with wear and tear on the roads and things like that, that's a consideration as well. So what I wanted to do is just have kind of an open discussion about this. And we don't necessarily have to approve. We can, I mean, I guess we can. We can adopt the policy that Scott submitted to us, or we can change it. So I'm gonna leave it there. Does anyone have anything you want to talk about with that, or?
Since this would be just to point out on the ordinance side of what this is, to make sure everybody's aware. What we would need to do, to to adopt a new ordinance is to make sure that we do a public notice in the papers, schedule our public hearing, and then the first consideration, much like what we just did with the change to chapter 8 in our zoning ordinance. And then you do your public hearing, first consideration at your first meeting, and then schedule your second consideration out. At the second consideration, that's when it gets adopted in, and then it goes to the recorder's office. But we need to make, just so we know we have to follow those steps in order to adopt it in as a new ordinance. I would suggest probably the way that, just from my glance, reading down through this and lining it up with what some of the state code has, I think it's probably something that the sheriff's office, John Rasmussen and myself will probably have to sit down and go through this ordinance. I appreciate the work that Chief James might have put into this, but when it comes down to doing these ordinances, I think there's a little bit more involved in it than just having one person do that, and just make sure we pull from other areas in the state that may already have something like this. Hear from them kind of what's working, what they have had come up later on, so then that way we can be as proactive as we can moving through this. One part of it that, is kind of off the bat on the ordinance itself. One part that concerns me is that it says that the operations should be permitted on the farm to market roadways through cities with populations less than 2,500. And I think that's something that we need to communicate with the cities ahead of time if that's the route that the Board of Supervisors was looking at going. And then on the state code side of it, there's a part in the state code about mufflers required and the inspections of those mufflers. Who's going to inspect, determining is that something that we're going to do at a county level? Are we going to inspect to make sure that the noise ordinance is going to be followed, or kind of look through how those pieces see? And then I guess I can let the sheriff and John talk about what they see on their side.
Those were John's comments on the farm to market roads. John has went through that.
Okay.
I went through 7 different counties and 4 of them that are, I guess, attached to our county and Chief James did some review, but I did a lot of the homework on it, as well as whatever that group is called, the ATV group or whatever they're calling themselves. And Leanne has, reviewed it too. But I just, it's almost like the smoking thing we were talking about. What's going to be the next thing that's going to be coming as far as a vehicle? And, are these going to be something that, we're going to use as a county, whether it's the sheriff's department or the roads department or conservation department? And, there's some money there. Not that should be the driving force, but they're out there already. I just think we better get control of them, to be honest with you. But
yeah, to that point, it's already happening as it is. So in my mind, we might as well make sure that we have, some legal oversight, and then also, just there is a revenue stream that's there as well. And it seems to me that folks that are even doing it, the people that have talked about, driving these things on our roads, have indicated that they're more than happy to do a registration and follow the rules. They just, in my mind, it'd be better if they're following the rules than not, so.
really, the state should have this probably handled from the state level, to be honest with you. But then we start talking about local control and that type of thing, so.
Sheriff Danker, did you have any concerns or anything that you've, I know you guys are doing it now, but.
Well, I guess, I know there's, how many counties in the state of Iowa have these ordinances, do you know, Scott?
Oh, man, there's a bunch. I want to say around maybe 40.
Okay. Yeah, I know that is it's definitely something that is getting to be more and more of. I know in, going up to Moab, Utah here a few years back, and they're everywhere. I mean, they're driving down the road like vehicle, I mean, they're everywhere in the middle of town, driving everywhere. And of course, that's a huge off-road kind of a center for people, but I know they've, there continues to be more interest in that. So I guess, with this, I don't know what the other counties' experiences have been with whether they've had an increase of accidents or whether they've had increase of other violations or anything like that. I know that that it is something that I know I talked to a resident up around Crescent there. He was talking about trying to get a group together to have kind of it was like a fundraiser thing or whatever, and having a group of ATVs, UTVs for a little ride down county roads, and this was, I believe, for a benefit for a cancer victim, I believe. So it was, I know there's a lot of discussion on that. I guess I am open to looking at that, and I think it's, again, it's something that's, we're not reinventing the wheel. I mean, it's out there now, so it just gotta look at it and see if that's gonna fit in, in our county.
Chairman Schultz, Mark Shoemaker said he would like to have a copy of what the ordinance might be, because he would probably have some questions.
Yeah, we'll make sure. This is just strictly about, and thanks, Scott. I know I should have mentioned that he had a lot to do putting this thing together, and we will we'll get that available to Mark so he can look at it too. It's tough. I'm super biased. I have an ATV, and obviously I'd love to be able to drive down the street and go and take care of things. But on the flip side, I can see that when we open the gates here, especially that first year, probably there's going to be, the accidents, the DUIs, the things that shouldn't be happening, could happen. We want to make sure we address them the best we can through the ordinance process. So, I mean, I'm open and supportive of doing this, myself, but I think we just need to continue looking at it a little bit more. Is there anything, I guess what I'd like to do before we leave this agenda item is make sure we have direction for what the next steps are. So that way we can communicate that back to some of those groups that have been asking about it. I mean, do we want to send this back to the different departments, have them red pen it again and then bring it back? That'd be the next. Sure. Can we agree to that?
I mean, it's we've discussed it, well, I know, not this board, but in the past, we've discussed it, and it's just, the ag people are doing it already, they're exempt in that sense. But I just think it's probably better to be proactive rather than reactive, and what the next, toy or trinket's gonna be out there, and if we know that they're registered and licensed, and, I just think it's a better process than just letting it go, because people are crossing county boundaries already and such. So, yeah, everybody can filter it, and we can circle back.
Okay, so we'll get that out to each respective department. I'd like to just ask that you folks take a look at it, like seriously take a look at it, red pen comments, and then the next, I'll probably, come back on the 28th. So I'll give us 2 weeks to kind of review this thing, and then we will have some more discussion on those changes, the recommended changes, and we'll start moving down the next steps from there. So I'd recommend no action on the agenda item for right now, other than obviously your homework assignment. But is there anything else for the good of the group out there on this one? Okay, that is it. I will move forward with the next one. We're on to other business right now. The first item on this is the approval of Pottawattamie County Treasurer's semi-annual report.
So move.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Next, hopefully Mark's still watching. Approve the employment agreement between Conservation Director Mark Shoemaker and Pottawattamie County, Iowa. This agreement corrects the employment agreement previously approved on June 16, 2020.
So move.
Okay, motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second, any discussion? I'm guessing this was just a clerical error.
I think the only change on there was in that first paragraph where it references who it's with, Conservation Director and Pottawattamie County. I think Mark added in there, and the Conservation Board.
So it didn't change the amount?
No.
The amount did
The
not
amount
change.
stayed the same?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, yep.
Okay, so, so we got a motion and second. Any other discussion on this? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. Okay, next we have approval of the resolution 67-2020. This resolution corrects resolution 26-2020, previously passed on March 31st, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on this one? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oh wait, sorry, roll call, my bad.
Chairman Wickman, Chairman Schultz,
Aye.
Tim Wick, Chairman, Supervisors Wickman,
Absolutely.
Thanks for
Bell.
the motion.
Drake,
Aye.
and Groby.
All right. So next on here, we have our public, comments from the public. I would like to just ask that as we go into doing this, I know there's a number of folks here today. I'd like to try to keep it around 5 minutes, just be respectful of that. Obviously if it goes over that, I'm not gonna have huge heartburn, but I'd like to just make sure we kind of be conscious that we still have other agenda items that we do need to address today. So with that, when the discussion happens, please say your name, your address for the auditor so we can
Do you want
keep track
the
of that.
dais?
Yeah, where do you want me to stand, or do you want me to stay here? Or?
Yeah, you can.
Tell you what,
stand
I'll pull
right
that,
here. Yeah,
I'll pull that up.
we'll give you something to put your stuff on.
Speak
Sound good? All right, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
So my name is Scott Pottawattamie, Punteney. I live at 4105 Gladbrook Drive, Council Bluffs. I'm a member of the Concerned Citizens of Pottawattamie County. We are a coalition group that formed after the Black Lives Matter movement protests erupted throughout our country. Currently, we are composed of 10 community leaders and activists that believe in equality for all of our citizens. Our current members are Kate Cutler, Kate Shea, Rod James, Glenn Hurst, Virgery Sanford, Jill Shudak, Jerry Fredrickson, Ramon Calzada, Mike Yowell, and myself, Scott Pottawattamie. And we consist of people from all diverse cultural backgrounds. We strive to abolish racial injustices within Pottawattamie County. We are also very concerned about the armed citizens who violated curfew ordinances on May 31st outside of the county courthouse, and the message that sent to all people of color throughout our community. One of our first business items was to meet with the Council Bluffs mayor and the police chief, as well as Chairman Schultz and Sheriff Danker. After meeting with both parties, Mayor Walsh agreed to issue a proclamation concerning all members of our community. Unfortunately, we were unable to get the same commitment from Chairman Schultz and Sheriff Danker. That is the reason that we crafted the letter that you all should have sent in the mail. We sent one to each individual, and I also sent one to the board before this meeting. With that little introduction of us and what we're about, I will turn it over to Glenn Hurst, and he would like to further on. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Glenn Hurst. I know most of you all. Thank you for giving us a little time here. I was told we have sort of open amount of time. I think I'm at 5 minutes, but I'll just, I'm a little notorious.
Address?
Sure, Glenn Hurst, H-U-R-S-T. My address is 210 5th Street, Minden, Iowa. So I don't miss the irony that Black Lives Matter group has allies that are Caucasian and that they're the only ones here speaking to you today, that there's two white males standing in front of you, and the question being asked, where is the African American community? Well, we had a person who was arranged to come and share the letter with you, And I got a call from her last night. And she said, Glenn, I have to back out of tomorrow. My family is begging me not to be there. They're concerned about me as a woman. They're concerned about me as an African-American woman. I work in this community. I go to church in this community. I'm worried about my safety anyways. And to make a public statement like this is too much for our family at this time. So I'm here on her behalf, as well as behalf of the rest of the constituents of our concerned citizens of Pottawattamie County. And the point of being here today is to really talk about perception and what the perception is of what happened on May 31st outside of the Pottawattamie County Courthouse. Not just our perception, but the perceptions of the folks who were involved, perceptions of other community members who are in support of the action that took place there. The perception throughout is very clear, and I think it's a perception that negatively affects the county's goals of growth and inclusion. You know, we want to grow Pottawattamie County. We want to grow businesses in this county. We want to grow the communities in this county. And the perception left by that action is having a negative effect on our ability to do that, I believe. And so it's why we're asking the Board of Supervisors, and in the letter we asked very specifically for a statement to combat that perception. So what are those perceptions? The perceptions of the group that was there themselves, their gut reaction immediately posted on Facebook the next day is a perception of that this was okay and that this is something that could be expected to happen again in the future, and that it was a supportive and approved action. Their statement is, I would like to thank the Sheriff's Office and CBPD for trusting us to provide security for both the courthouse and the Squirrel Cage Jail. So their own perception was that this was an okay action for them to take. And there's no argument about the legality of carrying weapons. In our group, the Concerned Citizens in Pottawattamie County, we talked, every one of us owns a weapon. None of us are concerned about weapon ownership and free carrying of weapons in the community. What we're concerned about is the perception of a group of individuals that appear to be embedded in with our police departments and our sheriff's department. It's not just their perception. That's not their sole perception. It's the perception of many people in agreement with the action of needing those additional bodies. And you can decide whether or not you've funded your sheriff's department well enough to defend our city as needed, or whether our sheriff's department has the resources to reach out to the correct group, which would be the National Guard, if they felt that they were being overwhelmed. But the people like Jeff Jorgensen, who's a prominent citizen here in Pottawattamie County and in Council Bluffs. He's a co-chair of the Pottawattamie County Republicans. Just after the last meeting, he posted a statement about his interaction and his perception with Deputy Brown, who was present at that night, that said, Deputy Brown said that if not for the armed citizens who showed up downtown on the Monday night of the violent protests, local law enforcement would have been overwhelmed, and downtown Council Bluffs would have been heavily damaged, along with the county courthouse, in spite of the fact that there was no organized protest. There were very few protesters there, and there was no evidence of violence. But that's the perception that he got out of an experience and a conversation with people directly involved. So the perception is that this is something that was necessary here in your county, the county that you're responsible for. The perception of the people in our groups and the people that kind of came together to address this, I'll read from the letters here. It says, a short examination of their rhetoric on social media unmasked the group's founding principles, which includes association with the Boogaloo movement, whose aim is to support a second civil war in America, There's ties to white supremacy and anti-government organizations through this association. And they're tolerant, and the tolerance of their presence sent that message that we as a county tolerate that and find that as acceptable. They had their own T-shirt order form with the Boogaloogian across the top of it that you could order right there off of their Facebook page. So the perception out there is that this is a group that is not welcoming to people of color. So I'm going to read what we're asking the County Board of Supervisors to do is to make the following statement. Pottawattamie County and the County Sheriff's Department are deeply saddened by the deaths of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Rashard Brooks, and other unnamed Black people at the hands of those sworn to protect them. People of color experience fear, violence, and discrimination in ways that too many of us have failed to see or understand. They face structural barriers when it comes to securing quality housing, healthcare, employment, and education, which fuels injustice and inequities. We cannot be silent in the face of this moral crisis. Black people and all people of color need those of us with privilege and power to take the lead and fight for an equitable future. We must do more to listen, to learn, to be willing to experience discomfort, to collaborate with community partners, and to protect the constitutional and human rights of every person who lives, works, and visits Pottawattamie County. We must be vigilant in preventing, countering, and mitigating acts of hate, and stand with and support those experiencing ongoing harms caused by racism, discrimination, and exclusion. The Pottawattamie County Board of Supervisors recognizes that everyone in our community has a responsibility to stand against racial prejudice and intolerance and must acknowledge and confront racism and discrimination when and where it occurs. One more paragraph and I'll wrap up. To that end, we, the Pottawattamie County Board of Supervisors, send a strong message to those who would presume to speak or demonstrate otherwise for our county. To those who would assume the authority of law, to those who would intimidate the voices of those we seek to hear, to those whose agenda is the spread of racial and anti-government fear and intolerance, we do not seek, desire, or accept your assistance. We stake our claim to county buildings and institutions as ours, all of ours, and not any individuals or groups. We offer the protection of law enforcement to all members of the community and the fair enforcement of law no matter your race, creed, color, or code. As a city council member of Minden, where we are trying to develop a new development and housing, we want our county to grow. As a businessman in Pottawattamie County, whose business relies on me seeing more patients on a daily basis to grow the jobs that I've grown, we've added well above living wage jobs in my clinic. But we're not going to be able to do that if we can't attract more people and more patients to our county. And then as a concerned Pottawattamie County citizen myself, who's raising a family in this county, I appreciate the diversity of people of color, of our Latino population, which is one of the fastest and largest growing communities in our county at this time. I believe that we need to make a profound statement, and I ask the board to publicly state their opposition to the militias in this area as it perpetuates a backwards image of Pottawattamie County, and it will reflect negatively on our desire and our ability to grow as a county. Any questions for me?
I have a couple statements, Glenn. Thank you for reading that. I just want to address two things. I guess, Scott, you mentioned that, it was unfortunate that I didn't sign on to this proclamation. And I made clear to you during the Zoom session that given my position on the county board, that decision would have to be made by all board members and that I couldn't just make that decision alone. So, that's one. Number two, the comments you made with regard to Lieutenant Andy Brown and Jeff Jorgensen's social media post. I was physically at that meeting, and what was written in that post and what Andy Brown said were not the same. So I just want to make that clear. I was at that meeting. Lieutenant Andy Brown did not say that. He did not say, the word overwhelmed never once came out of his mouth, and I would venture to guess that if you were to talk to him, that he would agree to that. So I guess,
I would respect that.
yeah, it was
And again, the statement came out not as, what I read was not a statement of, this is what Andy Brown said.
no,
It was a statement of, this is what the perception is in our county. From leaders in our county, people who are close to this, people who are very close to this. You're close to this. The perception is very clear that this was acceptable, and that darn it happened, but we need to be bolder in our response.
I'll side with you on that statement about, what the perception was there. Because immediately after I saw that post, I sent a message to Attorney Brown myself and said, wow, I never heard you say this, and this was going to resonate. And so
Managing that perception, I believe, is part of the responsibility of this board for communities that want to grow, for businesses that want to grow, for a place that wants to be happy, safe, and inviting. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody want to say about it at all, or? Yeah, we have more people to speak. I just want to make sure as we go, try to keep this as moving along. Is there anyone else from the public that would just wish to address the board?
I would.
Please state your name, your address for record, and then.
My name is Corey Damgard, CORYDAMGAARD. My address is 123 East Main Street, Trainer, Iowa. Zip is 51575. I would first like to address the board and thank you for hearing this out. Perception was talked about a lot from the gentleman. Now, I think there are different perceptions in what happened. First of all, I have a long, extensive history and a proud, extensive history with the United States Marine Corps. People that know me, and the majority within the community, know me as a man that is doing everything he can to give back to the community. The name Valkyrie Arms that was brought up in this letter, which I'm at this point confused why Valkyrie Arms is brought up, because it's Corey Damgard, not Valkyrie Arms. It was my decision to do what I did. Valkyrie Arms is a business that does everything they can to give back to PTSD and suicide driven on by PTSD. We've also done many fundraisers to give back to our law enforcement. We have given back to our community, from Toys for Tots to donating fundraisers for people that have lost loved ones. It's essentially a nonprofit company. If you had looked across the country of all the things that are going on, many people are not taking issues in their own hands, but they're assisting law enforcement. That was solely our mission in May. It was not to implement fear. It was not to protest Second Amendment rights. In fact, it was a last-minute decision. It wasn't a planned decision. I firsthand got to see what happened in Omaha the evening prior. And when we have intel that's good enough to have our entire community board up their shops with plywood, close their doors, I would say there was ample intelligence out there that this could very well have happened to our community. We had in no fashion were we there to prevent people from protesting. In fact, we encourage it. In a way, we protest. We protest our Second Amendment rights, our freedom of speech, so forth and so on. We were not there to prevent it from happening. It was not racially motivated. I have been unofficially tied to a movement that is non-existent. The Boogaloo movement is satire. The Boogaloo movement is not in support of a second civil war in America. The movement in which I belong to is the United States Marine Corps and my community. The items in which this gentleman had listed, if you would look more into it, it has no correlation with me stating I support a Boogaloo movement. I am not in for a second civil war. Ladies and gentlemen, I have been in war. I have came down with a disease caused by war. The last thing I want is war. Hence why I was here protecting and providing security for this building to prevent harm, to prevent violence. In no way am I a racist. Am I anti-government? In fact, we had several non-white participants within our security attachment here during that evening. We wielded military style weapons. This is jargon that, again, explain to me a military style weapon. Was it an AT-4? Was it a tank? Was it what? I mean, they did a great job blowing this way out of proportion. We were simply here to provide help for our community. We don't want we do want our community to grow. We don't want it brought into ashes like several other communities in the United States. Protest away. I'm all for it. Yes, this country needs fixed. The states need fixed. Our communities need fixed. But let's not make the issue any worse than what it is. You're punishing a group of individuals that were out there eating popcorn on their tailgates, drinking soda, watching the fireworks. We were there ensuring that the job can be done. That protesters could protest and keep the violence away from the honest protesters. That was the sole reason we were here. And I'll be the first to say I am deeply sorry for putting all you folks, our sheriff's office, our Council Bluffs Police Department, and every other law enforcement administration in this situation. I think it's sad that we have to be here today because you had a group of real concerned citizens standing up and doing what was right. I would do it again.
Amen.
I would absolutely.
As would I.
I would absolutely do it again. I am part of this community. I have many members that have contributed to this community with strong names. Dave Richter, Chuck Harder, Chris Harder, Rick Damgard, Mac Damgard, all big. They've been huge in this community. And I'm the last one to sit there and tarnish their names. People ask me why I did what I did. Same thing why I did what I did in the Marine Corps. So our kids don't have to. We've seen what happened in Omaha. It wasn't going to happen in my community. And if I could do anything to help it, and I'm not talking about going and blazing my guns, but to be a deterrent. And has anybody ever thought, the intelligence that we had, maybe we were the deterrent. Maybe we did deter bad people from coming across and doing what they wanted to do. And I'm not talking about protesters. I'm talking about the violent individuals, the opportunists that take, perfect opportunity to wreak havoc. They're not the ones that we want protesting. And I'm sure these folks here are part of the coalition. They don't want them type of people. They want the protesters. They want Black Lives Matter, the true Black Lives Matter people, to come out and protest what they feel is an injustice. And I would protect them as well. But I'm far not a racist. I am far not anti-American. I am far not anti-government. I love my country. I killed for my country. I'm fighting a disease that will never ever go away for my country. I'm proud to be a supporter of that gentleman back there, every one of his men, every one of the Council Bluffs Police Department officers, U.S. Marshals, DEA, ATF. Everything that happens in this building is why I did what I did, and I will continue to do. I do it so my kids don't have to. But to be labeled as a racist, anti-government, and against everything I love and breathe and die for is absolute asinine. And I apologize for being emotional, but this is nonsense. And I thank you for your time. These folks have every right to say what they want to say. I fought for it. But at the same time, I will not have them label my business, which my business had nothing to do. Valkyrie Arms had nothing to do with my decision. Valkyrie Arms t-shirts, hats, gear was not worn during this deal. It was Corey Damgard, the United States Marine. That's who was out there. I think it's wrong that my company name. Look into what we do. 3 years this thing has been in existence. I have not paid myself one paycheck. I have donated thousands and thousands of dollars to all kinds of charities and fundraisers. From organizations that provide PTSD service dogs to veterans. Everything. But I will not stand here and let a group of individuals spew out what they think is who I am. That's all I have, and I appreciate the opportunity to get in front of here and talk to you guys.
Thank you, Corey.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else from the public that would like to speak? Come on up, sir.
Name and address?
Steve Gilfillan, Gilfillan, 2635 Avenue I.
Yes, sir.
I'm a retired deputy sheriff for Pottawattamie County. And I rode by that evening, the evening of the event, and I saw Corey out here. And I knew that things were in good hands. Because I can guarantee you that if what was going on in Omaha transferred to Council Bluffs a short distance, law enforcement would have been overwhelmed. We're not prepared for that. We're not Omaha PD. Pot County, you know, yes, you can call for mutual aid and all that. But it's the citizens. It's we the people that protect. Corey had a call, and he made it. And when I rode by and saw him there, I knew things were in good hands. I never once thought something bad's gonna happen because they're there. I've known Corey for a while. I've never heard a racist word come out of his mouth. I have seen fundraisers and food drives and giveaways, everything to help support the community. I have seen that. And as an ex-law enforcement officer, I took an oath also to the Constitution. And I'd stand right beside him any moment. Any moment. Because in these times that come up like this, the people have to protect their government. We have to protect our way of life. I'm all for protesting. It's in the Constitution. It's in there. You can protest. Peacefully protest. What we were seeing in this area was not peaceful. It was not peaceful. I am not a racist. I judge people by their character. Nothing else. Just their character. This was a thing that came along, and I'm very proud of the guys that were up here. That took a stand to watch, to help protect this community. I never once had a thought, oh man, this thing's gonna light up. Oh gee, something's, never once. I felt I had a confidence that things were gonna be looked after. I never once thought there were some loose guns out here about to do something. And I think for the people to stand up to protect this building and protect the people in this community, I think it's a great thing. I think it's a great thing. Because far too many times nowadays, people don't want to say anything. Oh, I can't get involved. I can't say anything. Because you'll be part of the cancel culture and they'll come after you. I'm almost 62. Cancel, I guess. But you know what? You have to stand up. You have to stand up for the Constitution. You have to stand up for the Bill of Rights. And you have to stand up for protecting our own communities. And I fully support Corey and all the men that were with him. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to address the board? Sure.
Chad Boyer, B-O-Y-E-R.
Chad or Chet?
Chad. 1707 South 12th Street.
Me?
Yes. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I can offer a perspective from the opposite side. I live a quarter mile south of the old market in Omaha. I have numerous friends and relatives that are business owners and saw firsthand the damage that can be done. Going down and helping my friends and family to board up their businesses only to have plywood ripped away, fires started, and having to go down and help them clean out the mess in the next coming days. Thinking alongside them, gosh, I wish we had somebody that would have been able to help. But we saw firsthand the Omaha Police Department, which by far supersedes the numbers of Pot County, be overrun. When you're listening to a police scanner and they're coming across, we've got 4 individuals here in body armor that are officers, and we've got 100 protesters. It wasn't a protest that night. It turned violent. That was a riot. You're all more than welcome to say anything and do anything that you want. That's your First Amendment. You can go down and you can speak to your heart's content. And just all the more power to you. We all have that. But to have a certain group of individuals that do the same sort of thing that Mr. Damgard did, it makes me damn proud. Not just as a community member of Omaha, but of this great nation. To know that in times like this, they're not putting themselves first. They're there watching out for our law enforcement officers. It can be a simple thank you to walk up and shake a hand, well, not currently, to a law enforcement officer. Usually it's a fist bump or something right now due to the COVID, obviously. But in a way, thanking those officers and those of us that have any military experience, we've got your 6. That's all we were there to do. We weren't trying to be a bunch of hard asses. We weren't trying to, we weren't trying to put forth some sort of show of force. Anybody that was out there and anybody that's willing to do it again has a love deeply ingrained in this community. Just because I live on the other side of the river now, I went to Abraham Lincoln High School, played football. A lot of the people that I know are still around in this community. I've got family members that are a stone's throw away from this building. And to hear that these individuals were out here knowing that it wasn't going to spread and it wasn't going to turn violent and going to end up on someone's front doorstep. If one possible person could stop from being injured that evening due to the actions of those individuals. It seems like a just cause. I've never heard Corey say anything remotely racist. I've been along with Valkyrie Arms since its inception in 2017. He is my brother, and I would gladly stand next to him. And I would gladly support any of our local law enforcement, firefighters, or the decision that any of you make. I may not agree with it, but doesn't mean that I'm not going to respect it. Thank you.
Anyone else from the public, sir?
Bill Ryan. 11714 South 203rd Street, Gretna, Nebraska.
Thank you.
Morning. I'll be brief. Everything all these guys are here to represent, everything Corey said, everything Chad said, 100% agreement with everything they said. There is not one of us that has anything to do with supporting Valkyrie Arms or Corey Damgard that says we are racist or anything else. My biggest problem with this whole meeting is the perception being considered to even make a statement like what's listed in this. Who's standing up for us? Everybody else's rights are being talked about, everybody else's comments, etc. It's all being backed. But what about my second, my first, any of my amendment rights? Any of theirs? We should have the right to stand up for what we believe in. We should have the right to protect our communities. We should have the right to protect ourselves without being looked down upon, without statements being issued, especially about a man who puts everybody else first over himself. I grew up with Corey. I went to school at TJ. Known him for a long time. There's not a better person that could stand for our community than him. That's all I have to say.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the group would like to come up? Please let Mel know your.
My name is Rick Griffiths, 2729 Avenue L, Council Bluffs.
Okay, thank you.
All I'll have to say is if it weren't for men and women like these people right here, none of us would be here. These fellows wouldn't have the right to argue anything. I'll come do this again tonight, tomorrow, whatever. Show a presence to defend you guys and your families, us and our families. I do not regret my decision. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else from the public would like to speak? Okay, sir, come on up.
Steve? Simrel? Yes, I am. RELL.
Okay.
It's 2 L's. 1002. West Wind, one word. Drive. Linux. 851.
Lennox, Iowa?
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's good. Thanks.
Thank you.
So I wrote a pretty lengthy essay. I'm not quite a impromptu speaker, but I didn't get the chance to print that out, but I'll say what I have to say. To be honest with you guys, I don't know Corey very well. I just met him not too long ago in April when COVID changed our lives. So when I came into Valkyrie Arms, the first thing that I've noticed was a giant mountain of food because the grocery stores were very in short supply. So he was there to make a huge donation for that, and I quickly realized the character of this man right here. And I am not from Pottawattamie County, from Iowa. Well, actually, I'm a transplant from Texas, and quickly realized that his morals is something I can get behind, and more than willing to give him my business, and that's all it is, a business. His first impression was very lasting. Not once did I ever think that I was encountering a man part of some kind of radical movement. It was just to do business for his adept skills. Fast forward a few months, then we have our society flipped upside down on its head. People rioting and chaos is all broke loose, and here this man is making another great charity event for patriots and law enforcement alike to remind us that this is not our country, and for our law enforcement not to give up hope on us citizens. I thought that was a great deal. I have a ton of respect for this man in just the short months that I've known him. Now, I'm a truck driver. I could be in New York City and a few days later be in LA. In the beginning of June, when all of this stuff started happening, I picked up a load out of Long Beach, California, going to Spokane, Washington. And then when I was in LA, that's one of the first things that I was told is stay off of this interstate in particular because they're pulling people out of their vehicle and being very violent if you're not protesting yourself. So at that moment I realized, well, this is, I'm just trying to work and provide for my family. That's my priority here. I mean, that's what I do as much as work. And when things started getting real hairy, the first thing I wanted to do is get back to my family as soon as possible. And I noticed that they were targeting truck drivers and throwing bricks at them. It's funny that one day we can be praised for delivering toilet paper, and the next day have bricks thrown at us from overpasses in Minneapolis. How quickly things can change, and it's ironic. When I was in Spokane, Washington, I wondered if protesting or rioting and civil unrest could happen to a place like Omaha or Des Moines. I just happen to live right in the middle. And Spokane, Washington is just about the same size of both Des Moines and Omaha. I was compelled to ask the man, what is it like? How was the protesting going on there? And they were like, well, everything was peaceful. They were praying in City Square with the police and singing Kumbaya. It was very peaceful. And when things started to settle down and police were leaving, then when the protesters were leaving, the rioters came out of nowhere at night and started damaging buildings and everything, as I'm sure all of you are aware. Come to find out, those people were pretty much shipped in, and they weren't from Washington. And just with a little bit of dabbling on the internet, come to find out it's happening all over the country. So on my way home, started to realize that there's a very distinct difference between a protester and a radicalist. And they exist, and it's on the rise, and it's a real threat. And I got to experience buildings burning, rioters, police in these major cities with large amounts of funding, struggling to keep things in order. And so, anyways, long story short, I just want to say that it didn't happen in Iowa because of the motto of the state is basically we prize our liberty, and we'll stand up for our rights, and that's exactly what I think happened. I'm proud to be part of Iowa now because I know that the citizens here do value our liberties, and I'm glad to raise a family here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Feel bad for my wife, I have terrible breath today. She gets to kiss me, so. Hey, I just, when Scott Putney and I spoke, I told him that, I wanted to make sure that we had a chance to have discussion and things. So certainly if there's things that you would like to bring up, having heard other folks talk, please feel free to chime in if you have something to say.
I'm fine right now.
Okay, well, I'm gonna speak for myself in this right now. I personally, I'm not gonna sign the proclamation, or at least I'm not gonna vote to sign it. It's not because I'm being disrespectful, it's because what I would offer, what I would like to offer you is a chance to maybe sit down with some of these folks that were there that day. So I'm offering to the concerned citizens of Pottawattamie County a chance to have me, I'll help mediate or help facilitate that conversation so we can sit down and maybe air out some of our differences a little bit. We maybe walk away with different opinions and maybe, you know, maybe not any solutions, hopefully solutions or some result, but that's what I'd be willing to do. I don't, you know, I think some of the issues, and Glenn, you brought this up about the curfew. You know, I do think that was something that was a point of contention. You mentioned you didn't have an issue with the folks with the arms. I think on the Zoom call, I was getting a sense that some folks did have some concern there with it. But, you know, as you mentioned, that's not really an issue that the county is going to deal with. That's more something at state level. I personally, you know, I didn't feel that our law enforcement would be overrun. You know, I didn't feel that, but I also didn't really have an issue with those folks being there. And some of them I knew, and I mentioned that too to you folks, that I knew a handful of individuals that were there, the people that have been in the military with me. A couple of them have actually deployed with me overseas that were there. I come to later learn that there were more that I'd at least served with at some point in time. So it means no disrespect whatsoever. I don't feel comfortable signing the letter as written, especially there's some accusations in there that I don't believe to be true, especially of Mr. Damgard. But I do see where there's some differences that maybe could be resolved. So I'd offer that maybe, you know, if you want, if some members of your group would like to, I'd love to try to facilitate a conversation between the two and see if we can find some resolve there. You know, on some of the other issues that were mentioned in the letter, you know, I do think there's some inequities right now with some race. I do see that. I have friends that are African American. Some of them get very frustrated when I address them as African American. They say I'm a Black American, you know, and so there's things going on right now that I think, you know, the whole world needs to be in tune to so we can address those and try to solve some of those inequities. But in terms to say that I believe that all lives matter. I believe everyone matters. And, you know, as long as I'm on the County Board of Supervisors, I'm going to do my best to make sure that everyone has the same opportunities that I had growing up. And, you know, life for me wasn't always easy either. There's things that I had to overcome and struggle with. And I would welcome the chance to try to help others overcome things in their lives too that they're struggling with. That's why I'm doing what I do. That's why I serve in the military. I believe in protecting our Constitution. I took the oath as well, and I've been in combat twice. And this last time that I was overseas, it was very kinetic and very difficult. And you come home and you suffer some of the things. And so, you know, I applaud. I do want to applaud Valkyrie Arms and to say thank you, you know, for what you do for veterans, because, you know, we have a veterans department within our county, and we're there to help facilitate services from the federal VA, and, you know, state benefits, things like that. But at the end of the day, there's gaps that I think groups like Valkyrie Arms, you know, fill. And I applaud what they do. There's another group, Operation 22. I know they're a group that's mixed in with this group too. But you know, at the end of the day, I want to make sure that we can come together as a community and that we have an understanding of each other. And there's obviously different opinions in this room right now, but I think we need to try to, if we can, get together and try to, you know, see where we can set aside our differences and come together, and then places that we can't, you know, we can just mutually agree to disagree kind of thing. So
you had a group of individuals who stood up and said that they were proud of what they did and that they would absolutely do it again. And you, as the chairman of the County Board of Supervisors, is not going to make a statement saying, we do not want you to do that. That is not your job.
So no, it's not my place to make that call. You know, and I see where you're going to your statement there, but for me as a chairman, I'm not law enforcement. Law enforcement's handled by you know, our police chief and our sheriff. And, you know, so in terms of how we want to handle running our security operations in this building, I'm not a person to be able to.
Well, he's made that statement. Your sheriff has made that statement.
I'm not going to speak for Sheriff Tanker. That's the sheriff's call. So, I mean, you know, I'm not in a position, and personally, like I said, I knew some of these individuals that are down here. I don't.
Well, you're an elected official today, not a friend to the people who are here. And as an elected official, we are asking you to state that this county does not accept the representation and is not supportive of the perception that was shared. You can be someone's friend tomorrow.
Can I?
What?
What perception are we talking about? Is this the perception in which you're coming off or the perception in which I'm coming off? Because
It's the perception that was sent to people of color that makes them afraid to come here, that makes them afraid to speak out. We have a board member that was afraid to come here today because of some of these actions. It's real. It's not made up. And I understand where you're coming from. But we're trying to make sure that this doesn't happen again. The people of color. What's that?
Who sent the perception that you're talking about?
You did in your own
No,
post
we didn't.
on the Valkyrie post, on the
It never
conversation.
happened.
can you clarify these posts?
Yeah, would you like to see the screenshots?
No, I'll know what you're talking about. Is it the Boogaloo one you're referring to?
No, it's the one that I read.
Are you talking about the one that says, as evidence,
We get order.
the Valkyrie Arms posted this message? I would like to also thank the sheriff's office and.
Yeah.
Okay, the perception on that in which, the feedback in which I received, which was in the hundreds and almost 1,000, was welcoming. I mean, in no way, shape, or
So
form.
you had a bunch of white men.
There wasn't all white men there, sir.
Welcome
There wasn't all just white men there, sir. There wasn't. There was more than one ethnicity there.
Perception is all that we're asking the county to address. What type of person you are, et cetera, I have no interest in that. This is about the perception of our county. We've asked you to address the perception of the county by allowing a militia to embed with our.
And have you found a way to find out the majority of the perception?
I just presented it.
So you went to
And
you went to everybody's door.
Voice is heard in this country. That's what the Constitution is for. It's to protect the minority.
Correct.
To protect everyone,
Not to protect.
not just one group of people.
Alright, hey
It's
guys,
all of us.
We're right. It's not your courthouse.
I'm gonna.
So you want to infringe mine?
Bill,
Guys, I'm gonna
Bill.
intervene here real quick. So, sorry. So this is exactly why I'd like to have a conversation so we can get the two sides together and talk about it. I don't necessarily want to do it in a public forum. Glenn, your comment about, you know, me being an elected official and I'm not going to send a letter. I'm not going to condemn this group for what they did that night. I will agree with your group that there was some violation of curfew, but on the flip side of that, that was not a decision that I was involved in. I did call the mayor of Council Bluffs and I asked him specifically, I said, hey, do you believe that we should institute the same curfew that you are with the city? And he says, you know, right now I don't really feel it's necessary. Contacted the other board members, kind of let them know what was going on, and that was the decision that was made. So, I mean, I can see where the gray area is there. You know, like one side saying, wait a minute, you're telling the whole community you need to go home, but yet these folks are allowed to stay here. Now, there's conversations that happened that night that these folks believe that they were okay to be there. And right, wrong, or indifferent, that's what happened. I'm not going to condemn or I'm not going to say anything negative about anyone from that night. Me personally, I'm going to leave it there. Now, the rest of the board, if you have something that you would like to say, that's where I'm at. If there's anything that you folks have, please speak up.
All of us here would love a curfew ticket from that evening. I'll take mine
I was gonna
first.
say, if a piece of the board, I will accept a citation.
I don't think it's a situation that this community, in my lifetime, has ever ran up against. And I don't know if they're right, you're right, I'm right. I wasn't given the intel that some other people may have gotten
Yes, sir.
and such, and Would we do it different next time? Maybe, I don't know. God forbid if there is a next time. I mean, we're all talking about the future, our kids, and what we're here to support, you know. And I think as this board, as I've sat here, and this community, which I've spent my whole life here, I'm a TJ guy, you know, come out of the West End. Pot County's always been open to communities, to people, of all colors. And if there's an underlying message out there that we're not, I guess I'm gonna do my best to work to get that fixed. You know, and if you guys all wanna be part of the solution, great.
Yes, sir.
Because I think that's what it's gonna take, because this Pot County hasn't grown in 60 years. So, you know, I don't know what else to do. I mean, I think we're all trying to do what's best for Pot County and for the future of this community, and that's our children.
I would
So,
agree.
I mean, do we all have the same perceptions? Probably not. But at the end of the day, I think we're all trying to do the best thing we can for our communities. I hope. You know, I mean, there's some lessons learned out of this thing, and I'm sure we'll get better at it, so.
I agree with your statement about you've lived in this community. I've lived in this community most of my life. I was in law enforcement for 27 and a half years. In my 27 and a half years, I never saw any racism. I never saw it from law enforcement, and I didn't see it from any of the public. I've never seen that. I've never heard it. I've never heard racism used against me in this community. And I've certainly never used it against anyone else. So I think there's something to be said about the people that live in this county.
If I may, rebuttal to what he said about people coming here. I'm proof of that, you know. I'm a transplant from Texas, and I value being here. I grew up in a community in Texas where it was a melting pot of all different types of cultures and creeds. We embraced it. Now, yes, the demographics are different here, but I have not ever met anybody here that's got a racist bone in their body at all. That's not an issue at all. So far have I seen in 3 years. And as a trainer for a truck driver, I also train all different types of races and creeds, and they value that as well. It's like this area is a well-kept secret. I don't know what it is, but I love it here. So maybe we should just spread the word to the rest of the country, because we got a lot better here than we do in a lot of other places. And all you got to do is go to the airport and find that out.
I'd ask the Muslims who live in Oakland what they thought about the warm welcome they got.
This is in Oakland.
It is, Oakland is part of our county.
Oh, I thought you meant California.
No.
Okay. Sorry.
I don't have anything. I represent 93,000 people. Doesn't make any difference what color they are to me. And I've never seen it either, so I think, you know, none of us on this board were aware of what the plan was for law enforcement that night. We didn't know what the protesters or the rioters had planned for Council Bluffs. We didn't know any of that. You know, that's our law enforcement's responsibility to take care of that. And by golly, they did. And if you look at it, all of our businesses were scared. You know, they boarded up, but we didn't have any issues. We didn't have any issues because quite possibly these people here too. So I think everything came out okay.
From what I've seen, I think that may be the case. Because in some places, you know, crime went rampant. I mean,
not here.
Just not here. That's exactly right. And that's some of the things that I value. Like I said, the motto of Iowa itself is something that I value a lot.
don't want to take away everything that this folks said either though. So there is, and I've talked to some of these individuals in the Zoom call, that there is some, I don't want to say issues, that's not the right word, but there is some concern that there is some issues of racism going on in our county. And I just think that the forum for that is not going to be this letter from me. But I certainly would explore other avenues to try to help these folks. You know, we are a great county, and every one of us on the board is strive to continue to keep it a great county. We've done a lot of really great things here, and I appreciate your comments about being a transplant and what you said. It means a lot to hear that from someone
Sometimes
outside. You know, but on the other side of things, you know, we'll always have work to do. You know, there always will be, and I think that perhaps this other, when I say the other group, you know, perhaps this group of folks that are here can be part of that solution too. So
We would love to be.
I'm gonna leave it there. With that, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. If someone would.
So moved.
We need to go into closed session.
Motion to go into closed session.
Yeah, fair enough, sorry. Got a motion to go into closed session, is there a second?
Thank you.
Okay, got a
I
second?
thank you. I thank each and every one
Roll
of
call.
you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your
You're welcome.
I got a doctor's appointment. Becky's gonna come in.
Yeah, see you, Scott.
Let's take a
See
short
you,
recess.
Glenn.
Guys, hey Glenn, you guys wanna, can you hold up a minute? I'll meet it in the hallway.
Motion to go closed session.
Right,
Roll call.
We got a motion second, we should roll call.
Chairman Schultz.
Aye.
Supervisor Wickman. Roby. Bell.
Aye.
Drake.
Aye.
Okay.
Okay. Let's take a 5-minute recess and we'll come right back.
All right.
Glenn, I'll meet you in the hallway.
Okay.
So Audrey, so are you shutting that down now? Yes. Are you gonna, so I can pull up for our second
Cedar
closed
Falls,
session, I
Waterloo.
can log in and pull up the presentation?
When this went on
Okay.
here.
Are we still on, Melvin? Can you shut us off for a minute?
All right. I gotta. And those people